Well, thank you. Boy, what an honor to be here. And I was so pleased with the students group, the first learning at the top, everything is connected. Because that was going to be one of the topics of my little story today. And it's about changes. You know, when I was growing up back in the 50s and 60s, I had some environmental concerns as well. But weren't the environmental concerns today. But I did want to focus on four laws of ecology. Barry Commoner, a professor at the University of Washington, in 1971 came up with the four laws of ecology. Number one, and these weren't original, but he brought them all together and simplified them. Number one is everything is connected. Number two is everything must go somewhere. Number three is there is no free lunch. And number four is nature knows best. Now that's the one I take a little bit of issue with, because if nature knows best, then those of us who wear glasses and those of us who have ever had an appendix removed before it ruptured, or those of us who have a smallpox vaccination have kind of thwarted nature. But like I said, back in the 1950s and 1960s, my big concern was litter. People were throwing their garbage out alongside the road. Gosh, there was in America the beautiful program that wanted to beautify America's roadsides, because this litter was actually garbage and it belonged in a dump. And we had a dump in our community. It was a place that started out on a high hill, and you'd kind of back up the pickup to the edge of it, and you threw your garbage over the edge, kind of out of sight. And that was our garbage dump. Well, back in the 1960s, folks started to become a little more aware of what was going on, and there were laws passed. You couldn't have a dump any longer. You had to have a landfill. It meant you had to cover up your garbage with dirt. And I'll tell you, this garbage dump was just a horrendous thing. It stunk. People would set it on fire. There were hundreds of thousands of rats that lived at this place. But environmental laws, good thing. We covered up our dump. And it became a landfill. And the rats moved out and into the surrounding communities where we lived. And we had rats running all over our neighborhoods. There were rats in the driveway, and in the winter, dogs would corner rats. And I remember my dad shooting one day. It was a huge rat, and the dogs had it backed into a corner. Well, one night, we came home after school and after work, and we had a rat in the house behind the stove. The only way we got to it, Dad took the .22 and he killed it. You know, a lot of folks go, oh my boy. Well, we lived in a rural area. Anyway, I had this nightmare that one night I was going to wake up in the dark and there would be a rat in my bedroom. You know, kids have developed these kind of fears, almost paranoia. Well, one night I woke up, middle of the night, dark, and I could hear a scratch, scratch, scratch. Oh, I knew it exactly what it was. So I got my flashlight out and I shined it around. Rat, go away, rat. Oh man, I'll tell you what, I did not have a .22 in my bedroom because my parents didn't like kids having loaded weapons. So I was looking around, and the noise was coming from this corner behind a cardboard box, and it was getting louder, and I could tell it was coming out, and I was standing there. What am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? And I had just taken up bow hunting. I had a bow on the wall, so I stood there in the middle of my bed and I strung my bow, and I grabbed a broadhead, and I was holding the flashlight, standing in the middle of my bed in my underwear with my flashlight and my bow with a broadhead on full draw, and out came this rat from behind a cardboard box, a little rat nose, and then whiskers, and then great big beady rat eyes, and just a little bit further, and I was gonna nail that daggone thing, and a little further, and its side immersion was a sleek, furry side, and it kind of pretty actually, and a little further, and there was its tail, and instead of a scaly rat tail, it was a broad, flat, furry tail. It was a flying squirrel. A flying squirrel, that's what I said exactly. I had never seen one before, other than pictures and books, and I figured the chances of me ever seeing a flying squirrel were about as good as me seeing those flying monkeys from the Wizard of Oz, which was the source of another nightmare, but that's a different story. So anyway, flying squirrel, I wasn't worried about flying squirrel. I jumped off the bed, I hollered, and the flying squirrel took off, ran behind the cardboard box. I ran over there, found the hole where he had got into the bedroom, and I stuffed the hole full of dirty socks, and I was safe. Now, our memories from our youth sometimes get a little twisted. I asked my friend one day, I said, do you remember when the rats invaded town? He said, man, he said, do I remember? He said, we were sitting in the living room, and it was Christmas Eve, and a rat ran across the floor and ran into the master bedroom. And he said his dad raced in there. He grabbed a hockey stick. I guess he didn't have a loaded weapon handy either. And everybody was standing around. Archie slammed the door shut, the bedroom door shut, and all the presents were in there. And the rat had hidden behind this stack of presents. And Archie was opening up the door and handing out a couple of Christmas presents, and the kids were going, whoa, that one's for me. Look at the size of that. And he kept handing out presents, and eventually they heard wham, wham, wham. Archie was chasing the rat with the hockey stick. Finally, it ran into the closet, and Archie was removing all the clothes, taking down the clothes out of the closet. He finally got to the point all he had left was a pair of dress pants hanging there, and there was a lump in the leg, and he gave it a two-handed slash that would have got him 5 minutes. And a game misconduct, an NHL game, killed the rat. Now, they got rid of it, and Art's mother had everything in the house dry cleaned after that. But I always remember that. And it highlighted some of those laws that I just talked to, very commoners' laws. That everything is connected. You can't do one thing. You can dump your garbage, but it has another effect. It attracted the rats. You can say the dumps are a terrible thing. Let's cover them over. That did one thing, but it did something else. It forced the rats out. Now, there wasn't any free lunch for sure. And I struggled with it, and actually, nature knows best. I have struggled with that one for a while, and actually, today, while thinking about that and writing down what I was going to say, I finally realized how that applied to the whole situation. Nature knows best. We can tinker with nature and we can improve things. We can irrigate the desert and grow more food, but it has an effect on the Colorado River. Now, nature knows best. How would I apply this to this whole rat situation? Well, nature recycles. Nothing goes to waste. Salmon rot, the nutrients go into the ground, go into the bears, go into the eagles. Those nutrients recycled up in the trees, back out to sea, back to the land. Nature doesn't waste anything. And that's what we can emulate. We can recycle things. We can use things up. We can use them more. In fact, I was doing something just a little while ago on recycling, and the Oregon bottle bill years ago, I was opposed to deposits on bottles. That's a terrible thing, just a big waste, taking my money, and they passed the law in Michigan, and actually I found out it was pretty neat. But in Oregon, I think in 2009, something like 23 million gallons of gasoline, the energy equivalent of 23 million gallons of gasoline was saved by recycling those beverage containers, aluminum and plastic. That's the equivalent of 40,000 cars. And I don't know how many umpteen tons of carbon dioxide into the air. So nature knows best. Nature recycles. We ought to emulate nature as well. But that is my story of the rats. And with that, I thank you for inviting me.